Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Happy Monday. It's good to see you. There we go. We got to get them in the right order. Yeah, so we had like a foot of snow that fell. It was concrete. Like, it was real heavy to move. And I got my snowblower out. I'm doing my snowblower things. I got up at 7 this morning. I'm like, I'm going to get this stuff done. No big deal. And I did half so I have to do three total driveways when I do the snow. So I got half of my driveway done. And then I do the second. I'm working on the second half. I get myself all the way at the end of the driveway where you have the big drift from where they're all pushing all the snow. Snowblower's doing great. All of a sudden, nothing. Like, it's running, but it stops throwing snow. And I'm like, that's a problem. So it turns out I completely destroyed a belt. Like, the belt's gone. Or not gone, but I really messed it up. So yeah, that was my day. So I had to go then track down a belt, and hey, here we go. That's what was left of my belt. I had to go track down a belt and then install it. And so what should have been like 90 minutes of snow blowing ended up being like 3.5 hours, 4 hours of snow blowing. Like, it was terrible. It sucked. Vordium says 90 degrees here. Yeah, you can keep that, buddy. Boondock, how you doing, man? It's good to see you, Andy. Yeah, I'm glad to be done too, man. 4 hours of snow blowing. I'm just like, no, thank you. Dasload, how you doing? Karina, welcome aboard. Mark on BCA, good to see you. Dude, no, the shear pins went last week. So my snowblower is pretty notorious for eating up belts. So I go through, I've been averaging a belt a season now. And yeah, it's a combination of snowboard. And I was kind of hard on the belt at the end of last year too. We had some stuff happen. So I ate a couple pieces of wood, and it really kind of, I think, ruined the belt. So yeah, shear pins. Trust me, the shear pins went last week. Squirrel, it's good to see you, my friend. Happy Monday. So we'll do some thank yous real quick, then we'll talk about what's going on tonight. A little bit different this evening. Power to nothing. Thanks for 8 months, man. Cheers, buddy. Appreciate it. Artisan Simulations here for 22 months. This is 22 months, celebrating 22 months without being banned for acting like an idiot. I approve. Dogo DR is here for 20 months. Cheers, my friend. Thank you very much. Almost a 24 pack. We're getting there, buddy. CQR Smokey's here for 13 months. Thank you very much, CQR Smokey. That's what she said. 6 to 8 inches. Ooh. Squirrel, thanks for 26 months. There is an expo. Rumor is we might even go. And then Shinrar Villar, thanks for 2 months, man. I do appreciate it. Cheers. What is this snowblower you're speaking of? Yeah. Hey, Bill, you should come out and visit sometime, and you get to experience the joy that is snowblowing. Come out sometime in, like, January, February. Usually by now, we're done. I think we actually doubled or almost doubled our snowfall total for the year last night. Like, it's been a very, very, very quiet year in terms of snow. So I hope it stays that way. November Papa, thanks for 5 months, my friend. I appreciate it. KK Bash, welcome to the Beer of the Month Club. Thank you for your support. Cheers to you. Appreciate it. Oh, okay. The 23rd, I flew the Coronado Citation, Reagan to Boston. Oh, yeah. That was fun. We were screwing with them. We were trying to have a little bit of fun. Terminator 40, thanks for 18 months, or 8 months. That's twice now. I said 18. Terminator 40, thanks for 8 months, man. I appreciate it. Cheers, buddy. Scroll, thanks for the host, buddy. I appreciate that, too. All right. It's a nice little different. I'm going to do some VFR flying in the background here. We're going to fly the J-Roll and Marchetti. And I got a little path that we're going to fly up to the Pacific Northwest. But while we're doing that, we are going to have the good folks from FlightSim Expo on board. I think we're going to have Evan and Austin, if I recall. I know Evan's coming in for sure. I'm not sure if Austin's coming in or not. So I'll let them introduce themselves and talk. So we're going to talk about the expo, the event. They want to talk about sponsors. They want to talk about some of the hotel and flight deals and whatnot. And it's probably going to be a lot of sales pitchy type stuff, but there's going to be some good information to be had. I know Evan's been making the media rounds lately and talking to I think anybody that'll listen, really. I mean, it's no big deal that he's coming on here, right? Of course, no, it's the biggest deal. I'm sorry. It's the biggest deal. The Redbird, good to see you. LV Pilot, welcome aboard. Karina, how you doing? Let's go to Vancouver. I'll tell you what, if we point our plane, it depends on how fast we get to our first destination. If we get there in a reasonable amount of time, I'll point towards Vancouver. We'll see if we make it. Cafe Chloe, how you doing? Wannabe pilot, welcome aboard. You're still on the fence for Expo. Maybe this will push you over. Well, there you go. Alex, how you doing? Chase Blycan, thanks for 7 months. Appreciate it. Cheers, buddy. Clock you 180. Thanks for the tier 2 sub for 25 months. Cheers, my friend. I do appreciate it. Spaceman, good to see you, my friend. All right, so let's pull them in. We'll get the levels adjusted. We'll get this thing fired up, and we'll go do some stuff. So let me make sure they're here. And we'll get them on the horn. All right. So if we do this right here.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Say hi to everybody, Evan.
Hello, everybody, Evan.
So I have to ask you this. I think this is now the third or fourth year I've had to ask you this. How do you say your last name?
It's Ryder.
Ryder. Okay, it's exactly how it's spelled.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, well, math. Yeah, words and math are hard, dude. I'll tell you.
No disagreement here.
So Evan joins us. Where do you live, Evan? You're up in Pacific Northwest Vancouver area, right? Or you Canadian
I
side?
used to be. That was a good guess. Yeah, I used to be there. This time last year is where I was, but I'm actually now back in my hometown of Toronto, Canada.
Toronto. Did you guys get any
That's
snow?
the one. You know what? Actually, we have had, but there's not been too much. I guess you guys got hit in the Northeast there like a couple of days ago, and we didn't have really very much at all.
Yeah, we got we got hit last night out here in Boston. We got hit with about a foot, depending on where. Some people got more, some people got less.
Yeah,
it's been pretty bonkers.
Snapchats all day from people out there shoveling snow and stuff.
I'm not millennial enough for Snapchat. I think all the kids are using Insta nowadays, right, Max? So I'm firing a little flight up here. I don't know if you've got the stream up, but we're gonna do some Pacific Northwest flying. If I can remember how to turn this thing on. That ain't gonna work, is it? Give me just a moment here to try to turn this sucker on, and then we'll see about
that
getting out of here. That thing
looks way too complicated for me.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have picked this plane. It's real fast though.
It's Italian, right?
Italian, yeah. Okay. Well, there's throttle. Okay, so how do you start an airplane? Throttle, boost pumps, mixtures. Oh, fuel.
Yeah.
Probably should turn the fuel on, shouldn't I? Pull it from both tips. There you go.
Can I be the first one to give you crap about turning the alternator on before the battery?
That's how I learned to do.
Really?
Like that's what now this could be completely wrong. What? Come on. Stream. Help. Is that Austin, by the way?
It is.
How you doing, man? Welcome aboard. Austin, you're Detroit?
Yes. The old Motor City.
Okay. I know that. So last year, as we were coming in with started. Last year, as I got into FlightSim Expo last year into Vegas.
Happy Monday,
Hang on.
Cat. Shall we take the tea kettle to Painfield?
We'll take the tea.
Hashtag charity. Hashtag diaper bits.
Space Station, thanks for the bits, man. We'll take it to Painfield if we get the damn thing started. Okay, that's the goal. Cheers, my friend. Yeah. So I got into FlightSim Expo last year. I got into Vegas, and it was it was like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. It was stupidly late, and this somebody at the baggage claim walks up to me and he's like, "Are you catstrator?" And I'm thinking to myself, no, we're not ready for this, man. It's Wednesday night. I just landed. I'm really cranky. And then he introduces himself. Says, "Oh, I don't remember how you introduced yourself. Like, I'm with the FlightSim Expos." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right. I can deal with that."
I like that. I'm with the FlightSim Expo.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what you said, but we're gonna call it close enough. How do you start the fuel?
I think they're talking about a primer.
Oh yeah, I probably should prime it, shouldn't I? Where is the primer? Is it not fuel injected? Oh, there's defrost. This is how it goes. I don't know if you guys ever watched the stream, but it's like we have a thing that we want to do. Maybe we did flood the. Oh Jesus! You know what? I don't know if I can fly this thing tonight.
I don't suppose Control E still works, does it?
Say again.
You can't just Control E it.
Not in this plane, no. No. So, are you familiar? Are you familiar with X-Plane at all?
No, I was making an FSX joke, but no, I've actually never, except for at the show, I've never actually flown X-Plane.
High RPM on the... Okay, hang on. Battery navigation, fuel selector, empty your main tank. So this is running an add-on called the Reality Expansion Pack. And what it's intended to do is make the plane much more realistic. So it sort of brings the airplane up to what you guys would probably consider A to A levels of simulation. Which means it does things like, hey, you idiot, you just flooded your engine. Because I think that's exactly what I did. Oh boy.
Crank it while lean.
Oh yeah, if that's the case, then the usual is full throttle and mixture to the full lean position.
Aren't you glad you guys came on here?
give it some throttle too.
Yeah, I got full throttle going in right now.
Yeah, okay, there it is.
All right, full throttle, mixture's completely out.
Doesn't look like it's doing much.
No, I don't think it's doing anything, is it?
Do you have any kind of, like, the fuel pressure looks like it's
hit the red thing on the side to auto start. Really? I don't know what that means. What'd you say?
Well, there's no, like, do you have the fuel boost pump on, or is that how you would prime it if it's fuel injected?
That is how you would prime it, yes.
Because I'm just wondering, I don't see any fuel pressure, and I would have thought if the boost pump was on, you'd at least have some.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we do have gas.
What's
right?
that fuel pressure thing show up at the top there? Like when you turn the boost pump on, and a lot of the fuel injected planes I've flown, you get some fuel pressure, but...
Which we should, you're right, we should get fuel pressure.
But I don't see it now, so I'm wondering if it's actually getting any fuel.
That's a good point. It's because I called it the Marchetti, right? Yeah. You're right, there is no fuel pressure. All right, we're going to give this like 2 more minutes, and then we're going to try something else.
Retard.
Star Tim, thanks for 7 months, my friend. I appreciate it. Set your parking brake. Okay, I don't think it's going to make a difference, but if it's the parking brake, then...
There are,
you know what? There are some X-plane planes where that's actually a thing, where it's like they
oh really?
They've made the start process so restrictive. All right, we're gonna change planes. I can't do this. They've made the start process so restrictive that, like, if you don't have the exact set of parameters that they're looking for, they're not going to do anything. Like, they just won't even start. Sometimes they won't even let you click the button. Fuel mixture magnetos. That's what I did, man. Yeah, Austin, how you doing, buddy? It's good to see you. So anyway, we'll get this thing fired back up in a different plane, and we'll go do some. I'll go do some flying while we're talking. But in the meantime, we've got Austin and Evan here from FlightSim Expo. I'll let you guys introduce yourself. We'll start with Austin first because I think he's more important.
Promotion.
Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Okay, so I'm from Detroit. I am an automotive engineer by trade. My spare time, I'm a private pilot, and I volunteer with the guys at Expo to organize. So this year, I'm in charge of the kind of the marketing, social media side of things.
Is that what you were doing last year? Now?
No. Last year I was doing like sponsor outreach and exhibitor development.
See, he did get a promotion.
It's true, but I still did that job this year too.
I suppose it depends on how you look at it. Which job do you like better?
I mean, I still do both, but honestly, reaching out to everybody's awesome. So it's kind of a different side of the coin of the same skill set in a way. I do enjoy the social media aspect though, because I like working with Photoshop, and I get to interface a lot with a lot of our exhibitors.
Do you make all the graphics and whatnot?
Yeah, I make most of the stuff you see on the Facebook page.
Nice. And are you still an automotive engineer during the day?
Yes, sir. Sometimes into the night.
Well, that's a given, yeah. That's the life of any engineer, dude.
Most recently, he was stranded in some faraway place in northern Ontario called Kapuskasing. I don't think very many people will know where that was. And I guess got stuck there for a couple of days. And was it like minus 30, did you say, or was it colder than that?
How do you spell Kapuskasing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
See, now we're giving away things.
Oh, never mind. Then don't worry about it.
You're good. It's along Highway 11. It's
along Highway 11. Okay, we won't go any further.
Yeah.
You've been going pretty far. It's pretty far up there.
Fair enough.
There were polar bears. We'll just say that.
Oh, jeez, no thanks, dude. No. What happened to my sim now? How about you, Evan?
I don't know. How about me? I'm a co-founder of this show we call FlightSim Expo alongside Phil, who I believe you have met, and is the other co-founder of the show who's too busy with his real job to be here today. But somewhat recently anyway, moved from this area that you're attempting to fly in, the Pacific Northwest. And as you mentioned, I'm here in Toronto now. And I guess you might say by day, although also sometimes at night, I fly the Embraer 175 for Air Canada Express.
Embraer. So that's new, right?
Yeah, that's new as of, I started there in March, so it's been about a year.
Nice, man. So what did you fly before then?
I was on Navajos and King Airs, and on the Embraer now, the start sequence is so easy. That's why I said that other plane you were trying to fly was way too complicated for me, because all it takes is a mechanic now to start airplanes, right? As far as I know anyway.
Oh, no, it's too soon. Too soon
for that? Okay.
Not at all. Not at all too soon.
Embraer, yeah, no,
go ahead.
It's an incredibly automated airplane, actually, even by comparison, to Airbus and Boeing. I've sort of jump seated recently in both the 737 and the A321, although it was an old A321. And I mean, the Embraer 175 product is just incredibly advanced by comparison to both of those.
So I'm assuming you prefer flying the Embraer.
It's very different. I guess it's a totally different kind of flying altogether. No one? Airplane difference? Okay, fine. Anyway, yeah, no, it's a very different airplane.
I missed it.
That's all right.
I'm sure somebody got it here.
You gotta hope, right? It's a very different type of flying. I mean, the stuff we do now is into some of the busiest airspaces in the world. So from that standpoint, it's really cool. But the actual flying that you did in the King Air, going to gravel strips and flying around up north and stuff like that, is a pretty unique experience as well. And being in and around the mountains is obviously just breathtaking. So they're very different. I like them both.
Nice. Do you still do any GA flying?
I don't these days. Sort of hoping to get back into it. Every now and again, I sort of live vicariously through some of these BVA friends, and when we do one of our trips to Boston or somewhere in the Northeast, we try to go flying. So I think I was up in a 172 or even a Cherokee a couple of months ago, but it's just sort of one-offs now, and I don't usually fly myself anymore, unfortunately.
Do you think you get?
Remember the type of aircraft?
Well, it's okay.
It was
me. They're kind of.
I was flying.
That was my next question, Austin. Is if you flew?
I was actually talking about the Boston trip. So it was when we went to Portland. I think that was Cherokee,
nice.
Wasn't it?
Oh, that was.
Yeah.
When were you guys out here?
I think I sent you a message. I forget when it was though. Was it August? I think it was August.
Oh.
Yeah, it was August.
Yes, I think you did. I think I was out of town.
I don't know. I remember talking to you about it.
I almost guarantee you I was out of town.
Yeah, sure you were. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No. I think that was the weekend. So Max, my buddy Max, Serious Max here on Twitch and whatnot, was renting a DA-42 because he was trying to build some multi-time, and he wanted somebody to ride back with me. He rented the plane out of the Dallas area, and he wanted somebody to ride back to Dallas with him. So that weekend was actually the weekend that we flew from New York back to Dallas. And then schlepped it on a commercial flight coming back.
Got it.
Yeah. Otherwise, dude, like if you'd said, hey man, we're gonna go fly around Boston area, especially going to Portland, like I'm grabbing a plane, I'm coming with you, sort of thing.
Well, we'll be sure to let you know when it happens. It'll happen again.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, we got it. So you guys are close-ish, I guess. Like one of the things I want to do at some point is arrange like a big sort of Northeast fly-in for all the people that are, Vatsim and Pilot Edge and all the people on Twitch and whatnot. Like. There's a substantial number of people up here that have their pilot's license or have friends with licenses that I think it'd be fun to just say, go to this podunk airport for the day and have a good time.
Absolutely. Love it.
But that's neither here nor there. So let's talk about Expo. That's what you guys are here for.
Yeah, I guess.
Whatever. It's fine, right? Yeah. You guys, are you tired of talking about it at this point?
We're just sort of kicking into the media cycle, so I haven't gotten there yet, but we'll get there pretty soon.
Who have you spoken to already? Like who got in before me?
No, I think you might actually be the first. I'm trying to think if I've done anything substantial, but I think this is kind of the first one. I don't know, Austin, do you think of anything else?
I mean, I haven't been invited anywhere else.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You guys, I think I saw you were on Derek Vinto's podcast, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. So I guess you're the second one.
Yeah,
but
that's the only reason why I knew it is because I subscribe to that, and yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's been with us for a long time. Know him through Vatsim, and he actually controls in Atlanta, which is one of the places that we fly into fairly regularly. But we haven't managed to line the timing up just yet.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, he actually Max flew down to the Atlanta area late last year, and Derek actually was controlling and recognized the call sign, and called him. I was like, "Is this Max Weldon?" And he's like, "Is this the Derek Vento?" And or is this like DP or DV or whatever whatever they said? But yeah, it was kind of hilarious, because you don't really get that very often unless it's like a Steve 01 Knievel or somebody giving him a shout out like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I flew through. We know another Vatsim controller who works Minneapolis Center.
Okay.
And unexpectedly, we managed to cross paths. I think I missed him by about like 10 minutes, but he actually sort of saw me go across the scope, and he gave me a printout of the flight strip at some point.
Nice.
Which was kind of cool.
Yeah. So, are you doing much flying down here in the States, or do you do pretty much all Canada?
No, almost everything we do actually is from the States. So Toronto is the main hub for Air Canada pretty much across the country, but of course through many of the U.S. operations, that's really the only hub. So most of what we do is Toronto to almost all across the States. We go as far west as Denver. We got 3 or 4 airports in Texas we do, and then all over the eastern seaboard, New York, Washington, Philly, Boston, really all around that area.
And do you also fly in the sim?
I don't as much anymore. I've sort of backed away from that. I control a whole lot on Vatsim these days.
Yeah.
So my sim flying is kind of taken a backseat to the controlling.
I've had you a few times in the last couple of F&Os.
Have I yelled at you yet?
Have you yelled at me?
Yeah.
You've probably yelled in my general direction. Because so actually somebody mentioned in chat. First of all, let me say a couple thank yous, then we'll move on. Legacy 2039, thanks for 6 months. PU Boilers, thanks for your first month, man. Welcome to the Beer of the Month Club. And Super Viking, thanks for 21 months, Adam. Appreciate it, buddy. Cheers to you guys. We got to say our big thank yous here and take a swig. So a couple of back, it was December 23rd, I guess, because somebody today mentioned that they were flying or they were watching the VOD. It was one of the F&Os in the Northeast. And my sorry ass decided to jump into an S550, basically an M2.
The vacuum cleaner.
The vacuum cleaner, which, as you may or may not know, doesn't go very fast. And I put myself up there with all the big jets and whatnot. I think we flew. I want to say we flew the leg from DC up to Boston, and yeah, I think Evan. I'm not sure if it was you or if it was one of the other controllers. Almost immediately brought me off of that arrival because I couldn't meet the speed restrictions and keep up. Like all the other traffic was sort of bunching up behind me, and before I knew it, I was on my own little sort of vectored arrival.
Yeah. Okay. That's very possible. I don't remember. We did a bunch of those three-way F&Os. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. I think I did work that Southwest sector, but I bring it up because I was on the phone with or on Discord with Matt Davies at one point talking about Expo related stuff, and he. Like, first thing he said is like, "You just yelled at me on frequency the other day," and I'm like, "What?" Because I don't know who I'm talking to, right? Like,
right,
I kind of recognize voices, but some of these F&Os, you're so busy with airplanes that you're not even thinking voices. You're just like, okay, you got to go here, you got to go there. So he just comes in and he's like, "Yeah, I was like totally ready to start descending right when you called me." I'm like, well, you should have started earlier.
Nice. Yeah,
so it's pretty funny.
That's funny, dude. It's good. It's good to have those. Like, it's fun to have those little conversations because it's the same thing with Pilot Edge. Like, most of the Pilot Edge controllers know my voice at this point, but you know, there's still once in a while you'll get somebody like, you don't know that you're on with 400 other people or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always, whenever I fly the Vatsim stuff, and I say this with 100%, lack of regret. I'm always trying to screw with you guys somehow. And so the last time that we flew in the F&O, the last one you guys did. I did Newark to DCA and then DCA up to Boston, and I did it in the 727 slant whiskey at Mach 0.9. I think that thing goes 9.2. So perfect. I'm cranking past all the traffic up there, but it's just short enough that they can't really they can't let you fly over everybody. And then you're slant whiskey, and the controllers don't know what the hell to, like. You guys did fine,
yeah. But
the controllers elsewhere were kind of like, "Go direct to this waypoint." I'm like, "Yeah, I can't do that."
we used to fly around Vancouver. There's a cargo company called Skylink
Okay.
that to this day is still the equivalent of slant whiskey, and they don't have GPS certifications. So you'll hear all the time they're leaving from Vancouver and their controllers are trying to clear them direct somewhere, and they're like, "Yeah, we're unable. We need a vector to join this radial." So it's not that unrealistic. It happens.
It doesn't. It's just it's super rare on Vatsim to run into that.
Yeah, exactly.
The irony was one of the controllers, one of the departure controllers or clearance controllers, I should say, has a Twitch and I think even a YouTube channel specifically geared around flying slant alpha, slant whiskey, and he was even trying to clear me direct to some GPS fix, and I'm just like, yeah, we're having a good time, whatever, man.
No, it's good. You got to keep people on. Good to keep people on the toes. I know we get the odd Concorde, like we're doing Cross the Pond.
Yeah.
We're talking about Cross the Pond at the end of this month, right? And there's always those one or two people in the Concorde, and you're just like, all right.
Yep.
We'll try our best, but like you go 5 times the speed of everyone else. What like?
When those guys are flying, do they tend to know what they're doing?
I don't know if I should answer that question on a stream.
That's fair.
No, you know what? It's the same as everything else, right? There's some guys who fly them and fly them well.
Yeah.
And there's some people who just want to jump in them because they're the Concorde, right? So
right.
You try your best to work with what you can and try and make it work.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. And you don't have to answer any questions you don't want to answer. It's fine.
I'm learning, especially from that Matt Davies scenario, that you never know who might be listening when you're controlling these days. So it was a bit of an eye opener to be like, oh, maybe I should be a little bit more.
Well, I know. I think a long time ago there were controllers that were upset about themselves being streamed, and I think at this point that's all sort of subsided. Like, I think at this point a lot of people view the streaming and whatnot as being an overall positive thing.
Yeah.
But it definitely wasn't the case, 4 or 5 years ago when it was just sort of starting.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more of it, like on the controlling side as well. I mean, as you say, 4 or 5 years ago, I don't think anyone who was a controller would be streaming what they do. And now there's like 4 or 5 of our controllers every event who will stream it, and there's always a time lapse, and it's actually really cool. Like we sat down after one of our FNOs, and we all just watched the time lapse a couple times, and it was like, this is really cool to see how the traffic flows and see what happened and learn from the different traffic patterns, how you might be able to make things more efficient. It's totally just become a new side of the sim that didn't exist a few years ago.
I was going to say, it has to be pretty eye-opening, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Like anytime you take something that's sort of slow and you make it real fast, you say, oh, I can see all the trends that are happening.
Yeah, and it's funny, you'll see exactly which pilots are, slightly off the maybe the arrival, or who didn't quite fly the ILS perfectly. All those mistakes or those issues can get exacerbated, like you say, so it's cool to watch.
So for those of you guys just joining in, we're having a chat tonight with Evan and Austin, both from the FlightSim Expo crew. We're just kind of shooting some banter right now, having a little fun, and we'll talk about important stuff eventually. But it's you got to. If you've ever interviewed somebody, you have to set that sort of rapport and bring everybody at ease, because you never know how nervous they might be, right? How many people?
Yeah, and like I said the other day too, like this does not need to be a giant advertisement for FlightSim Expo. I think we've got enough of those going on. So if people have questions and stuff, I'm obviously happy to answer them. But really, I'm just happy to sit here and chat and talk FlightSim and Vatsim and controlling and flying and whatever else.
Yeah, it's neat because we don't. I focus so heavily on Pilot Edge that Vatsim sort of falls by the wayside most of the time. I never connect. Speaking of Pilot Edge, I never connected back to Pilot Edge. So let's do that. So I don't really know sort of what's up with Vatsim, outside of whatever you read on Reddit and any of that stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean Keith's a good friend of mine, and obviously a big fan of what Pilot Edge is doing. It's really neat, like when you put that financial backing behind it that the monthly subscription gives you, what you can then do with that network and the amount of people that he's reached out to and the amount of flight schools that he's in. It's really become an amazingly powerful tool that I'd never thought we would have in this world. So I think it's fantastic stuff. I've been on there as a pilot. This is years ago now, just a couple times, but it was a good experience every time.
Well, I think he was one of the first commercial companies in our little hobby here to really embrace streaming and to sort of recognize what it was capable of doing. So like me supporting them tends to be a little bit self-serving because it's a very sort of two-way relationship between us. I also like the product too, so that helps.
Yeah, no, I think it's got So the fact that you can have that guaranteed coverage is obviously super beneficial. And I think they're not quite 24/7, but they're like covering a good portion of the day, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like 15/7 or 18/7 or something like that. They're open 11 a.m. till 1 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, that's great.
Or something like that. 2 a.m. maybe. Yeah, I think it's 15/7. Which is awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. And sometimes, sometimes it gets super busy and it's like there's one controller and there's like 1,000 people vying for that controller's attention. But you get that, like you can even get that on Vatsim. The nice thing is when that happens, on Vatsim the controller can just log off. Not so much here.
Right.
Like, all right. But we try not to do that too much to them.
And I imagine you must look with the pay model, I would imagine that the pilots are fairly knowledgeable and you probably get a little bit less of that. No? Okay.
So, on the whole, I will say yes. The pilots are better, more knowledgeable, so on and so forth. But I think that's less about the paid thing and more that they don't allow anybody under the age of 18.
Right.
A lot of times I think it's the kids that, and I not nothing against kids, nothing against, like I'm super happy that folks are interested and want to get on. But a lot of times when I'm on Vatsim, that's sort of been where some of the problems have lied. Was that you could tell there was a definite age factor involved with their behavior and how they were presenting themselves. So I think that's some of it. But the paid thing definitely helps. I mean, when you have a $20 or $35 a month cover charge to come fly on the network, like that's going to really change your attitude.
Yeah.
But
no, I think Pilot is a really fantastic tool. Quite frankly, if I didn't have a group of friends that I have at BVA and at Vatsim, I think that might make a difference. But really what it's about for me now is just the fact that, number one, that it's just like I'm buddies with all these people and like we meet up like 12 times a year at this point. So yeah, it's kind of getting obnoxious.
I know you guys do a lot of controller meetups and whatnot. Do you guys have a lot of pilots that come in?
Yeah, like at FlightSim Expo, or we have some that will typically come to our Tea Party event, and a lot of the guys who are controllers are also pilots, so we tend to have a big mix at most of the stuff we do. But now that a number of us are working for the airlines, it's become really, really easy to just say, oh, we've got Cross the Pond coming up next weekend. Like, let's all go to someone's house and we'll just do it together, as opposed to just all connecting online. So that's a really big part of what keeps me around. And the other piece, honestly, is just it is nice to be able to give back. And I know not everyone at Vatsim is this way, but a lot of people are there to learn and are there to use it as a training tool, probably much like Pilot Edge. So if I can help play a role in that, it's nice to do that.
I think the training happens on both sides of the fence too, like pilots and controllers, because there's definitely controllers that do that even on Pilot Edge, and then go on and do the real thing. Kevin Myers is somebody that comes to mind from Pilot Edge, who was sort of one of Keith's right hand people, and then he went on and became what is he? He's in the trade. He does something at Dallas. I don't know if he's center or if he's approach or whatever. We did not hear him when we flew out there last year, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, there's a couple, obviously, Derek sort of got his start on Vatsim there a couple of years ago, and there's a few more now that are, I think, either in the process or they may have actually gotten to the academy date stage, which is really exciting to see.
Nice. So, how long has BVA been around?
I think that's a good question. I think the actual community started back in, at least the part of it that I was with, in 2008, and the Vatsim portion of it has been around since even longer, and the two merged back in 2015. So in its current form now, I guess about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, because there was another server that was out there, right? Another multiplayer network that was just the Boston area. Yeah,
that's right. That used to be the case. Started back in the good old FSX multiplayer days of the Juliana Pro ATC and the 6 people in 747s lying on top of each other.
Pro ATC server.
Yeah, that's right. I honestly, I miss those days, when you could just open FSX and you could click the multiplayer tab. It was fun.
Well, I have good news. You can still do that.
Yeah, but there's nothing there anymore.
No,
there's no GameSpy or anything like that.
Oh, is it? Well, is these FSX Steam Edition, I think, uses something different, right?
Connectivity.
Yeah, that's probably right. Actually, I guess it does.
Because I know that what the hell's that dude's name?
Air Force Pro.
That's the one.
Good old David.
I haven't met him in person, but I've certainly heard the stories. And yeah, he's made a name for exactly what you just described. Just let's jump on and have, do stupid stuff all night.
That's fun to watch.
It was funny to be part of. Like that's what we used to do way back when. But of course, BVA at the time was password protected, so you didn't have as much of that going on. But that's where that group got its start, and then it just kind of made sense for everybody when that sort of what we call the Project Vector merger happened. It just made sense, the old BVA group on a sort of dying FSX platform to jump onto the Vatsim group, where there's obviously fantastic technology and they've got really good structure and processes in place that could benefit from a couple extra controllers. So it really obviously worked out well, I think, for both organizations.
Hey, so San Antonio 727 wants to know if there's any updates on the new codec.
Yeah, could ask Vatsim.
Yeah, we don't know.
They tell you nothing.
Hopefully Matt Bartles is not listening to me say this, but I think that's the biggest thing that Vatsim needs. And it's even like I've been controlling for a long time now, so I've forgotten it. But I was listening to the radios from a pilot's perspective, and they're actually even worse when you're flying. The Wii controllers somehow got it better, but the pilot voice quality is just so difficult to listen to, and it's given me some new respect for the pilots who just say again, because I get it. It's really hard to hear.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is like there's a lot of background noise that's going on, and like I mean in our case we're half in the bag talking to Twitch chat, and it's like the flying is the second thing we're doing, but it's crazy sometimes. Like it's one of those, like legitimately I can only do it maybe two or three times a month, and then it's like I can't, like I've had my fill, and it's totally because of the codec, like the voice codec for me. I think once that's fixed, I will find myself flying more on the network. Or more on Vatsim, I should say. Yeah,
no, I think that's absolutely a big factor for anyone who's ever been on the network. So obviously I don't speak for or represent Vatsim, so Matt Bartles can't get too angry at me. But the reality is, I think if they got that fixed, that'd be wonderful. So unfortunately, I don't know any more than anyone else does about what the status of it is, other than I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah, no, me
Sounds
too.
great.
It does sound really good.
Chewy was part of one of the private tests for that, if I recall. And it was like, I think it was like a like we're gonna fire this thing up for an afternoon sort of thing, like not even on the real network.
Okay, I've never seen a video at one point and just listening to the quality, and it's like, wow, this is like actually sounds normal. Yeah,
so we'll get there. I mean, it'll get there at some point. Definitely, we've seen more progress and we've heard more about that stuff in the last probably year or so for a number of factors than any time prior. So it seems like they're legitimately trying to make some strides to improve things. And I mean, the more the merrier. Like the more better voice codecs, the more networks we have, the more guys putting pressure on one another for anything. The net win is us, like the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so let's talk FlightSim Expo.
All right.
So.
Fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can go back to talking the other nonsense. I have all night, dude. I've got no place to be, so we're good. As soon as we're done here, I have to go back down and help take care of the baby. So.
All right. We'll see how long we can keep.
All right. We'll keep it quick then. Right?
Yeah. Keep it quick. All right. There's diapers be changing. So, FlightSim Expo. This is year number 2. Okay.
Yes. So their first show last summer, June, in Vegas, as of course you know, and I mean, I don't know about you, Austin. I would have been happy with 500 people. I thought, maybe we might get to that number, and for us to have over double at 1,100, I mean, it was just amazing to see how much potential that there is in the United States for this kind of show. I was over in Europe this October for Cosford, and of course there's like 4 other shows that happen in Europe over the course of a year. So it's amazing how popular it is out there, and to be able to see that kind of number, those kinds of numbers, and that kind of involvement from the US community, given how much more difficult it is geographically to get around in the States, I think it's really cool for us.
So what do you think is keeping or what do you think has kept events like this from propping up in the United States the way they have in Europe?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think it's part of it is just the geographic challenge to me. Like in Europe, you can almost get anywhere on a train or a pretty cheap Ryanair flight. Although that being said, to get to Cosford, I had to fly across an ocean, rent a car, drive on the wrong side of the road. But anyway, I think that's part of the challenge. And I think there's a really big market in the United States, like we saw in that Navigraph survey that was done a couple months ago, that the U.S. actually has the biggest concentration of simmers, but they're just so geographically dispersed that when you're talking about having to fly somewhere and having to spend a weekend somewhere, that's a bigger commitment than a drive or a train and having just a one-day show. So I think that might be part of it. I don't know. What do you think?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
You're talking to Austin. No, you talk.
Oh, all right. I'll talk. I think that's also one of the reasons we like moving the event around a little bit, is we get to cover all the different regions, and we give everybody a chance to show up, because I mean, not everyone can afford to fly out, but some, like maybe native Floridians, can now make it to Orlando for a weekend and hang out with us.
Makes sense. Are you allowed to say how many people registered so far?
We're around, let's see, we're about like 400-ish, which is about a month ahead of where we were this time last year.
Nice.
So it's a good place for us to be in right now. What, and I know I'm not going to change it, and I'm not going to try and preach to it, but the thing that we found last year is that everybody registers in like the last month.
Yeah.
So we were sitting there, I don't remember if this was April or maybe it was sometime in the beginning of May, and we're trying to order a number of bags, and we're like, okay, well, we've got this many registered so far, maybe we'll do like 600 conference bags or 800, and then in the span of a couple of days, we're like, we better make that 900. I better make it 1,000, and we still undershot it by 100 because it just was like literally 50 or 60 people a day in the last couple of days before the conference.
Wow.
So we see a lot of it happen right at the very end, I think, especially from people obviously who are kind of local to the area and probably just make their plans a little bit later.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I had a number of friends who had tickets and hotel rooms and this and that, and like the last thing they did was bought their expo tickets for one reason or another. And I think it's when you guys started talking about maybe space might be selling out soon that a couple of the guys finally were like, oh yeah, maybe I should pull the trigger here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously that's just the nature of the beast, but it does make it difficult for us to plan because we're trying to deal with things like bags and badges, and we have exhibitors who are sending us materials or sending us, in the case of Sim Market, mugs, or in the case of Orbix, pens. They're sending us these things and they want to know how many, and I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, we got a rough idea, right?
Yeah, well, so we hope that with the numbers we're seeing right now, we'd like to see 1,500 to 2,500 attendees, which for us would be phenomenal. And I think for the U.S., certainly in recent history, nothing has come close to that.
So do you guys have the space then for 1,500 to 2,500 people?
Yes, we planned ahead this year.
Okay, because I know it was definitely a little bit. I think that was my main concern going into last year. I'm like, this space isn't very big for 1,000 people.
Yeah, well, that was our issue as well, is that we had that fire marshal restriction, which is where the sellout situation came from. I don't remember. I have to look up the exact number, but I want to say we have up to like 3,000 without doing anything, and there's a number of things we can do to make that higher if we needed to. So we've got more than double the space this year, including some options to be flexible on even more. So I think we'll have no issue whatsoever. Hotel rooms, on the other hand, those are going to sell out, but I don't think we'll have any problem with space at the event this year.
Hotels at the event are going to sell out.
Right, yes.
Orlando is surprisingly
the city of Orlando
dense.
will probably be okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at Airbnbs with some buddies and I for the event, and I found this deal yesterday, and with all my requirements, I'm basically looking for a place that'll house like 12 or 13 people. And I found this one that was, here's 3 townhomes in our facility that you can have for this one rate. And I'm like, that's actually kind of tempting to have 3 different places to be able to stay as opposed to just like one house.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How are the deals? Like, how is the Airbnb pricing in Orlando? Because we did a trip down to Nashville, I think it was maybe December or so, and we actually found that the Airbnb paid it, but the Airbnbs were actually more expensive than even if you did like 3 or 4 hotel rooms.
We're finding places with 12 to 15 beds, like sleeps 25, almost 25 people for under $600 a night.
Like total?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like my buddies and I are going for 2 nights, and we're looking at like $1,200 to $1,300 total for the 2 nights. In most places I've seen. So Yeah, it's a far cry from what Vegas was last year. I don't know what your guys' experience was, but I wasn't keen on staying at the Flamingo. And the Flamingo, the deal you guys got was certainly the best deal that was on the Strip. But as soon as you got away from that, man, it was real expensive.
Yeah, we found we did an Airbnb like for the couple days after the show, and I think we found a pretty decent rate for that. But I wasn't looking on the days of the show, obviously.
Right? Yeah. Nah, that makes sense. I don't even know what all was going on. I know there was the hockey match, hockey game.
The hockey match.
The hockey match where they played the 3 periods and did the thing.
Yeah.
And
you would be referring to the Stanley Cup final, right?
That'd be the one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, okay.
I'll tell you my hockey story here in a little bit. You probably, are you a hockey fan?
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you my hockey story here in a little bit, and we'll come back to it. But there was that, and there were like 1 or 2 other conventions and events that were in town. I think the World Series of Poker was in town for that month or whatever. But like my flights were expensive, and my room was my room was outrageous. Well, I mean outrageous in quotes. Like there were certainly more expensive places, but I stayed at what did I stay at? The Ellis Island Brewery and Casino that had the cheap. They had $3 22-ounce beers.
Wow.
They had amazing food. Like I'm like no kidding. Like it was fantastic. Like if I go back to Vegas, I will go and stay at that place again. And it was like a block behind. It was right behind Paris.
Okay.
So it was right. Like, it was right there. But yeah, it was kind of sketchy though when I walked in there. I'm like, okay, that's what I get myself into.
Interesting. Yeah, Vegas is it was a very challenging market for us. Like, I mean, obviously I know it's popular and I'm sure we'll be back there, but just looking at the way the dynamics work in Orlando, it's a much easier event to run in Orlando for us. It's cheaper for the attendees, and I think you can see some of the deals that we've got this year by comparison reflected in the pricing and stuff. The fact that we haven't increased prices at all from last year, and in fact we're discounting some of the exhibitor rates from our published rates as well. So it's actually a much easier network, or sorry, I should say much easier city for us to be in than Vegas was. But you know, people love Vegas. I love Vegas. I mean, there's no comparison to the Strip, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I found myself less infatuated with it this time, but it's still an amazing city.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do the gambling thing much, but just to walk around, I mean, you're just like sitting there in what looks like a giant like make-believe world, right? And you're walking on the street and there's like, oh, there's the Eiffel Tower and this hotel has a roller coaster in it. Like, you know, it's really cool.
Because there's a freaking pyramid, because why the hell not?
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of deals are you guys dealing with? Or what kind of deals you guys have you what are some of the better ones that people might care about?
Well, certainly the hotel deal, you know, I'm pretty proud of, which is $114 a night, and you're not going to find this sort of caliber hotel. You know, Flamingo, it's got the Vegas sort of appeal to it because it's been around forever. Right. The Renaissance in Orlando is like a legitimately nice hotel, and I don't mean that negatively, but you were in the Flamingo. You probably saw the nice part of it. The rooms, you know, they'll just say that it's historic for a reason, right? So Renaissance Orlando.
Did they have mirrors in the ceiling?
Sorry,
because I stayed.
Sorry, say again.
Did they have mirrors on the ceiling at the Flamingo?
No.
I stayed at the Tropicana one time, and no kidding, there was mirrors on the ceiling. I'm like, I don't know. I don't like this. Not cool.
That's funny.
So Renaissance, nice place.
Yeah, very nice place. Huge pool, all kinds of amenities nearby. Great food on site. In fact, the whole their thing is really, really good food. Okay. So they have like a honeycomb on the roof, so they can make their own honey and they cure their own meat. Like you talk about, you know, I'm gonna get a deli sandwich. Like no, they've like legitimately got like a hunk of meat curing and then like thing in the back. They showed it to me. I don't know what it's called, but it looked impressive and very tasty.
Honey curing in the thing in the back.
Yeah, well, it was beef, I think.
Oh, it was beef curing. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. They made it sound better than I am, obviously.
Gotcha. No, I follow.
So really good place. You know, obviously the Wi-Fi is included. 50% off self-parking, free breakfast for kids, free bottled water, all the amenities that you'd expect, and that all in will be about $140 a night. So for that area of Orlando, which is steps away from International Drive, literally in the parking lot is SeaWorld. That will, you know, that's just a fantastic rate. And of course, you know, it's Orlando, so there's hotels absolutely everywhere you can imagine. And then we've got quite a bit on travel. So Delta, Southwest, and WestJet, there are discount codes you can get for all 3 of those airlines. In addition to that, we've been working really hard to get people to and from the airports. Just in the past couple of days, we have a $30 round trip shuttle from the airport to the hotel. So again, by comparison to a lift, which I think cost me about $40 when I went down there last time, you're looking at a pretty decent option. And then 30% off, or up to 30% off, I guess I should say, with Enterprise, National, and Alamo using the discount code on our website. So all this stuff is just trying to make it as easy as possible. I know it's expensive to fly across the country and to travel around the States, but we're just trying to make it as easy as we can for people to be able to take advantage of it. And then, of course, when you get there, also on our website, FlightSimExpo.com, for those who don't know it, we've got a whole lot of discounts for stuff you can do nearby. So I think there's over 50 restaurants, attractions, and dining discounts that are available through Visit Orlando. We've done a discount on indoor skydiving, escape rooms, on some of the theme parks, and also on what is apparently the world's largest permanent ice bar.
Really? Where's that?
It is on International Drive area of Orlando, I believe. So it's in that. I don't know if you know International. Do you know Orlando? Like, you've been there?
I've been there a few times. Yeah, I've stayed in International Drive a couple times.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in that area, although I'd have to go look at their website again. But they've given, I think it's like a $6 entry when it's normally $20. So that's a pretty decent discount, and that you get a jacket with it, and I don't know what else you get. But, you know, if that's your thing, especially in the summer in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a little hot there, right?
A little bit. You know, although I was in Florida, I think about the 20th of June to do a site visit at Renaissance Orlando, and I flew from Florida to Chicago, and it was actually much warmer in Chicago.
Right. What time of year was it again?
June.
Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. Like, it happens around for us sometimes too, where like just the way the winds are working, where Boston's hotter than Miami. For like
it was weird.
1 or 2 miserable months out of the year. Don't like the heat. I'm at the point now, dude. I was walking around. It was 30, 33, 34 today while I was taking care of the snow, and I'm like, I'm gonna take off a layer because I'm kind of warm right now.
Yep, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I hate warm places, so the fact that we keep bringing this conference to all these warm places, like, I totally agree with you that I'd love to have it in, like, Alaska, but
hey, I got the perfect cold place for you.
What is that?
Yeah, we're not going to Detroit.
No, not Detroit.
Dude, Detroit is just as miserable as Florida in June and July.
No.
Like, don't kid yourself, Austin. I grew up in Fort Wayne, you know, about 2-3 hours away from you, so I know how miserable that area can be.
No.
Yeah. So you said you guys you moved it to Orlando this year. Are you going to poll again for next year, or have you already thought about where you're going to have it next year?
So we did. I should go look at the results of this again. We did a poll, and what we decided for 2020 as a starting point anyway, is we just wanted to canvass, like, what does the whole country look like?
Okay.
So we got over 700 responses, and the question was literally, out of all the Class Bravo airports in the U.S., where should we go? So we had about 30 or 40 choices. And as you might expect, obviously there's a real good distribution with people picking different places.
Right.
But of those, some of the top ones were New York with 14%. LA with 7%. Vegas was right there at 7% as well. And I think Seattle was up there with 10%. Chicago in that region as well. Now, some of those, like New York, is a really, really challenging market that time of year. If you want to pay $400 a night for a hotel room, then sure, we can go there. That's easy. But to try and get the rate to anywhere reasonable, not quite so much. But Chicago, there's some options. And certainly any of the hotter places, so LA in the summer, you have a little bit more flexibility with some of these hotels than you would at a place like New York, where June is just kind of their peak season.
Right. Well, you guys have probably had to move the week though if you went to LA, because I think you're the week before E3.
Yeah, I don't know. E3 has changed around because Father's Day moves and it becomes on a different weekend. So I don't actually know when E3 is, but you're right. We'd have to look at that for sure.
Yeah, I remember that being a thing. So where do you guys want to go?
Austin, you have an answer?
Besides Detroit.
I don't know.
So I guess what we've done, we started with this canvas of the states to kind of come up with 5 or 6 top destinations.
Okay.
And we're now in the process of trying to explore those. And I think practically what we are, no, I'm not answering your question, but what we are going to do is try to find, which of those cities gives us the best deal, not so much for us as a conference, but what's the easiest for exhibitors to get to, where can we find the best hotel rooms for attendees, where are they going to be willing to work for us and to give our attendees a good experience, versus where are we going to go where people are going to have to spend a lot of money to, do anything. So
Okay.
I think that's the process we're following right now. Me personally, I actually would kind of like to go back to Vegas again. I think it was a really good market for us. It was challenging in some ways, but it was a lot of fun. And I have a lot of people who really enjoyed it and have been saying that they would be very happy to have it there forever. So from that perspective, I think it'd be kind of neat to go back there. And a second choice for me would be Chicago, because it's so central and because it's a new spot for us. But there's a really, really good option that we have there, located close to the airport. So you're looking at an airport shuttle as opposed to having to go downtown. But there's easy train access if you do want to go downtown, and there's a bunch of good stuff nearby there. So those are kind of the top 2 or 3 that, like me personally, I'd be interested in. I can't necessarily say that they'll offer us good deals, but that's what we're looking at.
Well, that's not what I asked, though. So I'm just curious where you guys where you thought was interesting.
There were some. Oh, sorry, Tyke.
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's some cities that I was looking at in terms of. I think the major thing is like how can we make it easiest to get to, right? So a lot of these cities, either the price point's just out of range, or like we can't find somewhere that we can host it because we're getting this problem where we're too big for a lot of places. Like that is an issue I didn't think would come up, but it has. And like, let's take Washington, D.C., for example. I think I was talking with Evan for this. There's a bunch of great areas in Washington, D.C. where we could host it. It's not the most expensive place, so it'd be more reasonable as well. The issue is like trying to find somewhere big enough within the DC metro area that you can actually like host.
Right.
Yeah. So
well, that was that was the problem with your with events that were held in the past, is that they were held in an area that there was nothing like there just was nothing out there. So yeah, I commend you guys for trying to find places that are certainly easier for us to all get to and stay at, and think about things that we can that there are to do, because it's like I don't know about you guys and well, probably you guys to a lesser extent and the folks in here, but like it's a big social experience for myself.
Oh, yeah, it's a great time. Do you mind if I address something in chat real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
absolutely.
Brad just suggested the Udvar Hazy Center, and I think Evan will have a laugh at that one because that's the first thing I actually suggested. I'm native to Maryland, so that was like on my bucket list there. But sadly, I don't know if you know how much the Smithsonian is charging for that center about these days, but yeah.
Guessing it ain't cheap.
No, they got to pay the
start
bills.
Saving now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an expensive option. I see Denver being thrown around there a couple times in the chat just for the interest's sake. 3.3% was Denver, so that puts it about 12th out of the whole list of cities. And we actually did look at Denver because, again, it has that centralness to it. There'd be an interesting option for people. And Denver is the perfect example of what Austin is talking about with us being too big. What we mean by that is you could go and rent a convention center, and that'd be fine. You'd fit there, no problem. But they are expensive when you have 1,000 people. You could do that, 5,000 or 6,000 people, and you go anywhere. But at the level that we're at, 2,500, it's really hard to find a place that has a big enough hotel with the space that we want that isn't going to charge us an arm and a leg for it. And so that's where a place like Orlando and Vegas, they're just good options because there's so many large hotels. And to make that jump to the convention center, it's just a pretty big jump for the levels of people that we're seeing. But, in a year or two, I think that opens up a lot more doors for us.
That makes sense. So me personally, Denver and actually Chicago's the top of my list. But I would also put Denver up there as well. Just ease of access. I think Chicago is the best city in the United States. We'll overlook the whole crime thing and getting stabbed and shot, but it's such a fantastic city in terms of things to do and accessibility and ways to get around. Like Chicago's, I think, amazing.
Yeah, I think we have a really interesting option. The one at Chicago it's near the airport, like a shuttle away.
Okay.
But as I say, it's on the I forget what they call it, but so it's on their metro system.
The
anyway.
L.
There we go.
Elevated
so it's
platform.
It's on the subway system anyway, and easy walkability to an area nearby that has like 5 or 6 bars and restaurants, and I think there might be a movie theater and some other sort of activities stuff that's like kind of built up around this little airport community. So it's really a neat option for us.
Okay.
And again, it has that right combination of space, and I think we can get the hotel rate to a point that would work.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool, and I'm glad you guys are considering moving it around too. Like, I like Vegas, I like Orlando, but it's certainly like it would be nice to see some variety, just in the sense of being able to just see something different every year.
I don't know if people in the chat want to comment on this and give us some input, but because some of the things we're looking at, I think the hotel rate is a big deal for people. Like for me, if it gets much over $100 a night without the taxes and fees, or much over 150 all in, I think that's just like too much to spend on a flight sim show. Especially if you got a family, you're going on your own, you're leaving the wife and kids at home, like to justify $500 or $700 on hotel rooms is probably a bit much. So I'm not sure what people in the chat have to say about that. And the other factor is, I think moving it around the country makes it a bit more accessible for people. There's guys maybe on the West Coast who might feel like Orlando's a bit far, but that Denver or Chicago is doable, and we really want to be able to include as many people as we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. If anybody wants to comment one way or the other, please do. Besides that, I think it's also airfare costs. Different areas. Like if you had a show in Boston, for example, Boston's expensive to fly to. Like never mind the hotel costs and all that. Like Boston is expensive and it's difficult to get to because there's not that many direct flights unless you're from a major hub.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm guessing that was a motivator for you guys saying, let's talk about the Bravos.
Yeah, well, the DOT has statistics actually on flight and basically on airfares, and I'm not saying this 100%, but Vegas and Orlando are like 1 and 2 on that list, basically.
Makes sense. It's crazy. Like vacationing, or Vegas, you get used to seeing foreigners. Like you get used to seeing the European folks and folks from kind of all over the place. It was really weird to see that in Orlando. Like I don't know why, but my brain didn't expect to see so many people or hear so many people with so many different accents, and to see all the different European airlines that were coming in there. Like that was kind of bonkers, because I imagine like accessibility from Europe is probably a big thing too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, we get a surprising number of attendees from Europe, but really a lot of the exhibitors. I mean, if you go to our website and just look at the sponsor and exhibitor list, there's a really big percentage of them that are coming across from somewhere in Europe. And that really is a testament to how substantial the U.S. market is. Like, there's more people, and the U.S. flight simmer market tends to spend more money on flight sim products than Europeans do. And so that's why you see them all coming over. It's a long trip for them, but as you just said, trying to make it easy with there's I think a bunch of the discount European sort of vacation airlines that do the flights in and out of Orlando, so that helps us out as well.
Nice. Real quick here, Hawaiian Hippie, thanks for 12 months, man. Cheers, buddy, appreciate it. So we talked about discounts, we talked a little bit about sort of the location and whatnot. How about we talk about the show itself? So what's different this year from last year?
One of the big things we've added on this year is Captain's Corner. So this is a new sort of half day that we've added on to the front end of the show. We had feedback last year from attendees saying, the seminars, listening to some of the real world pilots talk and listening to those types of things are really interesting, but I'd like to hear, really more educational stuff. Like, how can I get a little bit of extra performance out of my simulator? Okay. Or how can I tweak P3D or X-Plane to do this or that? Or how can I, develop my own scenery? We got a lot of those types of questions, and we wanted to give people who wanted it the opportunity to take part. So that's what Captain's Corner is designed to do. So there's 5 seminars taking place on the Friday starting about noon and running through the afternoon, and that's all there will be. So you won't have the distraction of going onto the exhibit floor and wanting to be worried about missing potential exhibitors. You'll be able to really focus on the seminars and interact with the people who are leading them, and then still be able to enjoy the show for the next 2 days. And we're seeing about half of the people who've registered for the show have also registered for the Friday. So I think it'll be pretty big audience, which also is fantastic for people like P3D and Navigraph, Orbix, Jetline, and X-Plane, who are all presenting in that. It's just a great opportunity, of course, for them to reach out more directly and to answer some questions from the sort of hardcore flight simmer.
Interesting. So do you think that's going to be the kind of person that goes as the hardcore flight simmer, or is there going to be a good mix?
I think it. I mean, certainly it's designed not to say that not anyone couldn't go, but it's certainly designed for someone who's got experience with flight sim already and is looking to try to take their sim to the next level. We're doing a separate track, I think, on the Sunday for people who are sort of new to flight simulation. They want to know how to set up their computer for the first time. But for people who are looking for that more in-depth experience, that's what we've designed this for. And if you look at the seminars that are there, it's really kind of designed along those themes.
Okay. And did everybody seem pretty eager to, you don't have to answer this, but seem pretty eager to jump in and do something like this?
In terms of the exhibitors who are presenting?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest. Again, I think you talk to X-Plane and you say there's going to be 500 or 600 people dedicated to listening to you talk about your product, and that's a pretty good, compelling reason to go. Plus, it doesn't cost X-Plane anything to be there. So I think It was a pretty easy decision for a lot of them. So they're doing a pretty good panel on scenery, configuration, and virtual reality, and talking about scenery libraries and the best settings and configurations for VR. I guess the idea both for them and P3D is here's some of the lesser known things that people in the sim world may not be as familiar with respect to our platforms.
Nice. Well, that should be a good time then. Yeah. Now I'm assuming the exhibit floor and all that stuff will be closed off that day, right?
Yeah, that'll be a setup day for the exhibitors. So the Captain's Corner piece is just the seminars. So for people who are registering, it's only an extra $10 onto your weekend registration for that reason. And we did this, partially because of the feedback, but also because we had a bunch of people who were there anyway on Friday.
Right.
And a lot of people with flight schedules and things like that were there Friday morning. We figured, well, may as well give them an opportunity to take part in some portion of the show if they're going to be there anyway and if they're interested too.
Yeah, I remember last year we had an impromptu, meet and greet. As we were grabbing tickets and whatnot, people just started coming up and saying hello and whatnot. I think I was there for almost 3 hours Friday night, just shaking hands and talking to people. Fans and exhibitors and friends and whomever else happened to make it in. So, that'll be pretty neat to have some actual panel stuff there. So you guys still doing early registration?
Yep, early bird registration, same as last year, I don't know the exact times, but you'll be able to come in Friday and get your tickets so you're not having to wait in the lineup on Saturday morning if there is one. I was really happy last year. Couldn't believe the fact that we didn't have a lineup basically the whole time. I don't promise that'll happen again.
You never know. Again,
we're certainly aiming
getting
for that.
In early.
Yeah, that helped a lot. So yes, we'll have that again. Okay. And just like last year, similar story as far as having the 2 days worth of speakers happening. We are adding a second room this year for panels, so there are going to be 2 panels running concurrently for a lot of the show.
Okay.
And that's in aid of us putting together a new series of developer seminars, which are going to be remember that thing we did last year at the beginning where they sort of had 5 minutes to do a brief update? We've decided on the basis of their feedback again to expand that. So now it'll be a 30-minute segment that they have, and they'll be going pretty much throughout the day on both Saturday and Sunday. So I think we got 4 or 5 developers that have signed up for that already, and I expect a few more might do the same.
Okay.
We've seen those tend to be the most popular of the it's like people like you talking and it's developers talking that seem to draw the most interest from what I've seen. So we just want to give the people more of that.
Nice. Are you allowed to say which developers are going to be speaking?
I can if I know who they are. Let me look them up.
I'm sure it's all on the website, but I have to ask you something anyway. We've got to fill the air.
No, actually, we haven't published any of this stuff yet, so this is a good question to ask.
Exclusive, first look.
That's right.
So while you're looking that up then, so you said you have two rooms of speakers and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right.
So the other one is then just the kind of the panels and the seminars that we've been used to. Here's my sim,
exactly.
Here's this, here's that.
Yep, so we're looking at, just I can only really talk subjects at this point
Sure.
because we're just sort of starting to we've got a bunch of speaker applications, but we haven't finalized those decisions yet. But one of the tracks that we're going to be adding this year is that, okay, I'm brand new to flight simulation. what do I do? So there'll be a, why would you want to do this? There'll be a how to set up your flight simulator for the first time.
Okay.
And there will be a flying online, which will talk about Vatsim and Pilot Edge and kind of how and why you would do that. So that'll be one of the tracks that you see. The usual stuff that you see around cockpit building, we'll have some more of that. I'm sure we'll have a couple of real-world pilots. One of the gentlemen who I can talk about is an airshow pilot and Southwest captain as well. So
nice.
He'll be there to talk about both flying aerobatics and flying the airlines, which I think will be kind of a cool combination.
Nice.
Ooh, maybe he can teach me how to do some stuff in my Cessna.
What do you want to do in your Cessna?
Nothing illegal.
Has your Cessna been rated in the utility category for spins?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really care. You want to kill yourself? That's your prerogative, Austin. Do you own your Cessna?
No, I'm
okay.
I'm a flying club.
Nice.
I've always wanted to go up in one of those aerobatic planes, though. It looks like a blast.
Well, there was a CFI down in Aurora that reached out to me after a Twitch stream, back in January, who his partner was somebody who did some aerobatic stuff with Flight Chops years ago. But he's like, hey, if you ever want to come out and do some aerobatic stuff, just let me know. Like, we're up in Aurora and this and that. And like, all right, I think we might take advantage of that at some point. I want to get Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We got a what do you call it? We got a biplane down at where I fly out of Ann Arbor.
That'd be cool.
And I've met the guy down there. That might turn out to something.
Nice. Yeah. How much do you know?
Probably free and a burger.
Okay. Well, I mean, how much? He doesn't rent the biplane.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
I just met the guy.
Right, I gotcha. Yeah, I'd love to see a guy flying a biplane take a look at me. I'm 6'5". I weigh about 260, and he'd be like, yeah, I don't know about that. We got 2 wings. We might need 3. Did you find that list, Evan?
I did. So there's 5 on the list. I can only talk about 4 because one of them was asked not to mention their involvement yet. Nope. I guess it's going to be something of a surprise, or we'll see anyway. But at least for the time being. So one of them is Gleim Aviation, and then we have Medar Simulations, Noble Flight Simulation, and Mindstar Aviation, plus one more that is confirmed, but I just don't know how much I can say at this point.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, I think those are the types of things certainly that at Cosford were very popular.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that plays out this year. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple more names added to that list, but we always try to toy around with these ideas based on feedback from people, and sort of the feedback last year was just that 5 minutes really wasn't enough.
Right.
So I don't know, again, what your perspective is, or folks on the stream want to comment, but I kind of liked it because it gave you that, in a half hour, you got the top sort of 4 or 5 pieces of news that were happening. But I know it was very challenging for a developer to try to condense a year's worth of work into a couple minutes.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I remember, I know my panel was about 45 minutes late just because, again, people wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And I don't hold that against anybody, whatever. Again, we're not going anywhere. We do have one question from the chat I want to ask, and I need to find it here. The Better CP asks, are any portions of Expo going to be recorded or streamed?
Yeah, we're working on that this year. That was, again, one of the points of feedback that we've had from past years. So the biggest thing for us, we want people obviously to come out to the show, and so the streaming piece is something that's important to us because we know there's people who can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest piece, of course, is always, please come out to the show, because it's people who attend and it's the numbers that bring our exhibitors in. And if we don't have attendees, we won't have a show. But the answer is yes, we are doing video and we will be live streaming in one capacity or another every single panel and seminar that happens throughout the weekend.
Nice.
So anyone who wants to will be able to tune in and get access to that. Obviously, you won't get the full experience of being out on the event floor and things like that. But as far as the seminars and the panels go, you'll be able to see all of that happening live. And we haven't figured out quite yet if that's going to be hosted by FlightSim Expo or if we might be just making a feed available to folks like yourself who could then distribute that onto their own channel. So that part remains to be seen.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Do you know where you don't know where you're gonna stream yet, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're going to have the feed there. I'm not sure if we're going to do it, we host something on Twitch, or if we're going to just say, guys like you here's the feed, do what you want with it.
Go talk over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. That's kind of the that's kind of almost the BlizzCon thing, where they've been. Do you know what BlizzCon is?
I know what it is. I haven't ever seen it though.
Okay. Yeah. So they have a convention every year, or almost every year, and they sell virtual tickets to their convention.
Right.
And it's a way for, again, to watch the panels, watch the announcements. Usually there's cool little assets and stuff you get for the games and whatnot. Some good incentives to go into that if you're into those kind of games. Not saying that you guys are going to go down that path, but it'll be nice. It'll be nice to see the stuff streamed.
Yeah, I know that was a big point of feedback for us last year, so that is absolutely happening, and it will be free as well. So we decided, we looked at, could we charge? I think there actually was a question on our survey last year, as we asked people, would you pay to watch a stream, and what would you pay for it? And the amount they would pay for it just doesn't come close to justifying the cost of it. So we'd rather do it for free and just try to get as many people looking at it and hope that people watch it and say, I really will make the effort to come by next year.
And I have to imagine there's certainly some marketing potential to be had out of that too.
Let's hope so.
Josh Gibbs says he's going to do some IRL streaming.
There we go.
So I don't know if I'm sure you knew this, but there were a number of guys that were doing IRL streaming off their phones last year. Durka, Chili Willies was doing it.
Right?
Who did?
Drew. What was his name?
Which one's Drew?
FlightSim guy, I think.
I'm sure. The name doesn't ring a bell. If they're not part of my my little circle of people that I know, then I have no idea. Thanks for 26 months, Josh. Appreciate it. I'm not IRL streaming, man. No way. Not gonna happen. But yeah, there were a few people that were doing the IRL stuff, and in years past, I tried doing something a bit more sort of stationary, and I just don't think it worked the way that I was hoping it would have. So the IRL stuff is cool if it's done well, because it's just basically a dude carrying a camera around saying, hey, let's talk to this guy here, let's talk to these developers, what do you got?
Yeah, I think that worked well. I certainly saw that happening a lot, and I had it was kind of funny actually. I didn't know, my mom doesn't know anything about aviation, although she likes to think she does. And she's very, very proud of the fact that she almost knows the phonetic alphabet now.
Okay.
But anyway, I got back from Vegas, and she was telling me all these things about the conference, and I'm like, how did you even find these streams? I didn't even know that she knew I was in Vegas, right? So it's amazing to see how that stuff gets around, and apparently there was quite a bit of really, really good content that happened despite the Wi-Fi challenges that we had there.
Did the Wi-Fi work?
Mostly.
Okay. I don't even try.
We fixed that this year too, we think.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna hold you to that.
So in relation to your stationary stream, I think we talked about this earlier about having a streaming corner, maybe open up to people. And I think we tried something like that last year. It didn't pan out because I don't think we had the resources. But,
we had a thing set up last year with TFDI. I think you gave them a little better internet connection. They had a computer set up that the guys were able to sit down at, but I don't think that we did enough to inform people that it was there, and being limited to just the 717 sort of turned some guys away too. I was the only one the entire weekend that took advantage of that.
Okay.
So I did an hour and a half long stream. I don't know crap about P3D and the 717, so it was entertaining in its own regard. Because we had one of their guys sitting next to me giving me crap the whole time. But
managed to get that plane started though, did you?
I'm pretty sure I control eat it. Yeah. No. Turbine's no problem, man. You got bleeds, you got this, you got that, but it's that goddamn Marchetti, dude. Marchetti.
The hardest airplane to start I've ever known has been a Cherokee.
Which kind of Cherokee?
Just a regular, I think it was an Archer 2 or something like that, 1970 or 60 something. That was the early 70s. But that airplane was just so finicky, especially when it got to anywhere close to freezing. It was you basically had to hug and kiss it until it would start. And even then,
40 minute preheat on it.
Yeah, well, we used to do a little bit of preheat would go a long way, but there was the odd day where, like, someone forgot to do that or whatever, and you're just trying to start it right at freezing, and you're like, all right, crank, no, go out and hand prop, crank, no, prime, no. It was good times.
I learned to fly on a Cherokee 180, 1966, and I continued flying that after I was done. And I had the same experience, man. Like, that plane, you'd put like 12 shots of primer on that thing, and you'd leave it sit for 5-10 minutes after it had already been preheated, and then it would fire. But anything less than that, it gave you the finger, said no way. Like, it wanted a freaking preheat, and it wanted all the gasoline.
Yep.
And
I learned in sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I was gonna say I learned in a Cherokee that was rated at 160 horses, and on a good day in the summer you were getting maybe 140. So me and my instructor would putz along. He's like, all right, we're just gonna keep going, don't touch anything, just no maneuvers, just pray, right?
Sometimes it feels like that in the Embraer, actually. That and the A321 are two of the most underpowered airplanes. So on a hot day when you get to like 27, 28,000, it's an absolute pain trying to get that thing to climb.
Huh. How high do you guys normally go?
We can. I guess our servicing is actually 41,000, but we never go up there. The highest I've ever taken it is 38, and that was empty. We've done 37 with people, and I mean it will go there. It's just you're sometimes climbing at 300 or 400 feet per minute.
It's funny you mentioned the A321. Last year I flew to Seattle, and I was flying on a JetBlue 321. It was fully loaded. All the seats were full. I'm guessing that thing was filled to the brims with gas. And we took off on the long runway on Logan. Everybody else was using the shorter runways, but we took off on 3-3 left. And I swear to God, dude, we used that whole runway. Like, that thing was screaming. That engines were screaming. It was, it was trying so hard, and there was nothing, dude. Like, there was no lift. When it finally lifted off, you're like, boy, that's close.
So I guess he's listening. I have a friend who's a FO on the Airbus at JetBlue, and he just sent me a message that says my 321 climbs just fine. And then he has another word that I can't say on the stream, but you could probably fill in the blanks. And it's true, actually. I guess with the Neos, apparently they have a different engine model that fixes that issue, and maybe some of the newer 321s. I was on an Air Canada 321, which are some of the oldest ones probably that are hanging around, and both the pilots were complaining the entire time about the power to weight ratio on that airplane.
Yeah. Well, conversely, I think the 319, I think the 319s have quite a bit of spunk to them, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And I may be wrong about that. Now that your buddy's listening, I might be wrong about the 321, but it makes for a fun story, so you can deal with it.
No, I think you're right. I mean, the thing is, we're seeing narrow-body airplanes do a lot more than they used to, and I'm talking not necessarily the Neos, which are now designed for that, but like an 80s level 321 flying a transcon with 100 or 150 knot headwind, full of people, full of gas. Like, that's just not what, or at least it's pushing what that airplane was designed to be able to do.
Dude, screw that, man. Like, I just booked a flight with SATA going to Portugal, or going to the Azores this summer, and we're flying a 321 Neo from Boston to Ponta Delgada, which is in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean. Like, I don't really know how I feel about doing, and I know that it's shorter than, I know that it's a shorter flight than Seattle, but I don't know how I feel about going like E-tops in a 321.
I think the Neos, though, like that's what the whole purpose of it is to be able to make a transatlantic flight in a narrow body a thing, because that's the way that the industry is going these days.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper to do it that way, for sure.
Well, I think it's more of I guess in some ways it's beneficial. Like, I don't know, I always prefer to be on a wide body because of the space, but the reality is you can offer these point-to-point flights that just you'd never be able to make work in a 777, but if you could do it with a 130 or 150 seat airplane, it makes sense.
Right, it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I want the space. I'm a big dude. I feel exceptionally cramped in a narrow body for that long.
I agree.
The nice thing about the coast-to-coast stuff with JetBlue and whatnot is, even to Vegas, is I tend to do it later at night, or red eyes. So I'm always asleep. But yeah.
Yeah, fortunately, Air Canada does do a lot of cross country stuff with, especially when I was living in Vancouver. Obviously, I did a lot of Vancouver, Toronto stuff, and Air Canada operates a lot of wide body stuff between those two airports, mostly to move airplanes around for their scheduling. So it's really easy to find a triple or a 787 or 76 for like a 4-hour flight. Those are great.
Oh, that'd be
So
crazy,
I always try to,
dude.
whenever I can, I always try to be on that. If I get like I'm on the Airbus, I'm like, ah.
Are they like non-rev flights, or do they have people on them?
No, they have people on them.
Okay.
There's just so much capacity move between those two airports because they're sort of the two biggest hubs, like in Western and Eastern Canada, that you can, and they do, fill those flights on a very regular basis. I don't remember how many it is, but it's like at least 6 wide bodies each way between those two destinations every day.
Huh. Wow, that's crazy.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
As a kid, Canadian, like flying in Canada and all that stuff is kind of weird to me. Just because I mean, there's like 5 cities. And yet, like Air Canada is huge, right? So I don't. But I guess, like you say, a lot of your flights are to the U.S. and back. So, you know, there's
a lot of what Air Canada does really well is their whole strategy now is international stuff. So their idea is, I would fly someone like you from Boston to Toronto, and then they'd put you on a 777 to China, and you know they're not making any money on me flying you from Toronto to Boston. They're making money on flying you to China.
Right, that makes sense. Okay.
We have a absolutely incredible amount of connections. Like, it's actually cool. We can pull up the connection info. We can't see who's going where, but we can see like how many other flights our passengers are going on. And sometimes there's like 3 or 4 pages of connecting flights, and they're literally all around the world. And this is just on Air Canada, right? Not even other airlines. It's really neat to see.
Huh. Well, that's crazy. I didn't know that. Yeah.
My friend here is messaging and says, just to give it some perspective, JetBlue has 70 more airplanes than Air Canada.
JetBlue has 70 more airplanes.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And JetBlue covers what they cover. I love JetBlue, so don't get me. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Like they're the best. The problem is I fly to Indianapolis a lot, and so I'm stuck on not JetBlue a lot of times.
Yeah, I fly out of Detroit, right? So like, what do I got?
Oh yeah, you got
Delta, and then 3 gates in the north terminal. But every time I try,
could be worse. You could still have Northwest.
Yeah, the terminal. Oh gosh, have you been to Detroit lately?
Wait,
yeah, you and I flew out of it, right?
No, so I went back and thought about it. Actually, I flew through. I was flying Southwest. Our flights just happened to get in like the same time. I flew through Denver. Yeah. I had the old Southwest layover last year where you don't get off the airplane, and the captain. The most cowboy freaking Southwest captain I've ever experienced. Like, that's saying a lot for Southwest. Man, I gotta find. There was a thunderstorm that was hitting Denver. Everybody else was holding and waiting. This guy was like, "Hold my beer, let's go." And we went around the thunderstorm. We somehow got below the deck, and he must have gone VFR at some point. Pretty much beamed the storm. He's heading south into the west-facing, like the west-facing runway in Denver. So he comes south, he bangs a right turn about 5, maybe 10 miles out from the airport, and then puts the plane down. But I'm like, there's no instrument approach that would have taken you that way. Like, at some point you said, there's a thunderstorm right here, I can see the runway, we're VFR, we're good.
Oh yeah, reminds me of the Navajo days.
I would expect it in a smaller plane like that. You know, that's not a big deal. But so you guys fly. You know, sometimes when you're making your sort of base to final turn, you're really a little on the slow side, and you get a good gust of wind that catches that high wing and sort of pushes your plane. I've never felt that in a commercial airliner until this flight. Like we're cranking around, and all of a sudden you just feel that high wing just starts to get pushed, and the plane makes a pretty good bank before it recovers. And I'm like, whoa, man! Like I've never experienced that in a commercial airliner before. It's freaking Southwest, dude.
That was a crazy flight. I've never been scared on an airliner before, and this is when I was like in flight training. Oh man, I was like sitting there, and the woman next to me was like, "You're a pilot, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is crazy."
Yeah, this is different. This is a little different.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. Air Canada flies me east to West Coast Canada for $1,300, and from the West Coast to Eastern Europe for $1,800. That's kind of expensive, it seems. $1,300 to go from the East Coast to the West Coast is a lot of money.
Did they hold you on the ramp when you landed in Denver because the ramp guys weren't allowed out?
No, we got in. Like they brought us. They let us come in. We got in just after the storm was done. So they parked us and deplaned. But we waited an extra half hour, 40 minutes over what we were supposed to because everybody else didn't come in. And they're like, yeah, so there's people connecting on this flight. This is the last flight to Vegas. We're going to wait for them to all get in. Which is super nice of Southwest to do. But yeah, no, like I would have rather my guy held than, try to get us killed.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's Southwest for you, man. Like I think the unofficial tagline for Southwest is brakes are cheaper than jet fuel. Because as soon as you land, it's like, all right, brace, because here we go. Especially like Baltimore or someplace where they want to stop short.
Ooh, man. As someone who used to only fly in and out of Baltimore. That and Midway, man. Ooh,
dude, Midway's something else. It's a different story altogether.
Yeah, Baltimore's like, all right, can we make it before the Alpha Terminal ends?
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything else you guys wanted to hit on? I think we talked about exhibits. We talked about, we didn't talk about exhibits, but people are exhibiting.
Yeah, probably.
Say again?
We're up to 44 exhibitors officially on the website right now. I think there's about 4 or 5 more in the pipeline that haven't actually been posted there yet. But I mean, I think that's still probably. I think we're actually just about to, or maybe just have, surpass the number from 2018, which is exciting for us. And obviously, we've still got another about month and a half to go here before that deadline passes. So the whole list is on the website there. I'm not going to take me a little bit of time to try and read them all out, but
that wouldn't be
it's exciting to see. Yeah, it's exciting to see a lot of smaller developers, some of the people I hadn't seen in previous years, and then some of the big names that are in real world, but that also play in both spaces. Like until last year, I didn't know that Redbird actually had a consumer level product, and they do, and it runs. I think it runs P3D, which is kind of neat.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Mindstar are going to be there because they're mostly focused on the commercial stuff, I think.
Yeah, they've been around. They were there last year in Vegas as well.
Okay.
And I think they've got, I don't actually, like, again, some of these shows I spend so much time, like, walking around, but it's always just to make sure everything's okay. And I never actually get a chance to try stuff. Yeah, the first time I had ever tried VR was actually in Cosford, believe it or not. Everyone's asking, like, what's VR like? And I'm like, I don't know.
That's kind of weird. Like, you get a headache.
It's cool.
It is neat. Yeah.
I was only on it for about 5 or 10 minutes, so I didn't have that experience. But I remember when I used to fly, one of my biggest and best add-ons was Track IR. I don't know if you've ever used that. So when I put on the VR headset, it was like, oh, this is like a way better version of Track IR. And they need to work on the resolution, and there's some stuff that probably needs another year or two to develop. But when that gets really crisp and you can actually see the small gauges through the VR headset, I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll be pretty crazy. Like I've heard of VR being used in some flight training and whatnot too, just to get people acclimated to sight pictures and things along those lines. Like for
for VFR flying, yeah, exactly. Yep. It's really neat to be able to just turn your head and there's the airport, right? So I think that was a neat experience. Like if I was to build a flight sim setup again, and I might one of these days, I think that is the direction I would go, as opposed to trying to make anything that was like a really full-size cockpit. I think I would be moving toward the VR direction.
Yeah, I think longer term that's a good bet. Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I as a VR user with a flight sim, I can say that it's a whole different ball game, man. Like, it's a hole that you go down sometimes, but it's ridiculous how different it is. Like compared to flying a pattern in just X-Plane, right? I'm an X-Plane user. Just flying a pattern in the default Cessna, right, with a joystick and a monitor in front of you, and then like sitting in the Cessna. Now I don't have enough like controls. I got like this Thrustmaster like X-HOTAS thing.
Okay.
So that's not enough for me to use in VR. So I have to use like the VR controllers. But even just that, like just being able to feel around, like flip the switches, turn the mixture, and like look over my head, see where my downwind is, like all of that, you have this sense of scale that is like I can't describe it.
Yeah.
And it just changes everything. The only thing is I'm like a quarter blind, wear glasses, so it's really difficult. Because like I don't want to wear the glasses in it, right? So I tried getting prescription lenses, and even on that, it's just like, oh my gosh, like what is this gauge? Is this even like moving?
Right. I can see that. Well, I'll tell you, the thing that'll blow your mind in VR, and this is gonna sound really kind of goofy. Truck sim.
Done it. It's amazing.
American Truck Simulator in virtual reality is the most like cathartic. I'm gonna crack myself a beer, make sure it's in arm's reach, just sit back, like experience ever. It's amazing.
Yeah. I bought the like the steering wheel and the pedals and the shifter and everything, and just sitting there, I'm just like going down the highway, and I'm like, you know, I could do this for a living. Like compared to what I do every day, like you know, it's not too different.
It seems pretty chill. A couple guys in chat are saying Elite. I haven't done Elite yet. I did Elite briefly, I should say.
Elite got me dizzy within 20 seconds because I was sitting in front of one of the like stations, and it's spinning and you're spinning and everything is spinning, and then you fall over and you need a trash can. It just was.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There's an airport down here somewhere. Yeah, I've done a few things in VR. I got a headset at the end of last year, and it's been like racing and truck sim been kind of what I've gotten into. The Tomcat release coming up here soon for DCS. I think I'm going to do most of that in VR. I'm looking forward to banging around with the buddies in that thing for sure.
Did you get your t-shirt pre-ordered?
My t-shirt?
Oh, you didn't order the t-shirt?
No.
Oh, I pre-ordered the t-shirt. I got it like a it came with the pack or whatever whenever I did it, so I was like, okay, whatever. And I got the email a couple weeks ago, and they're like, hey, you know, mid-April.
Well, I had a friend who had a couple of extra, like he was given copies to give away or something. I don't even know what the scoop was, but I had somebody who had a free copy of the F-14 that was able to give me one of them. So I was super jazzed about that. Like it wasn't even on my radar. I had fun with the F-18 when it came out, but it's not really. Like, I'm not really super into combat sims. Like we'll do a stream with that 14. We'll have a good time with it, and that'll pretty much be where it ends.
DCS VR is great.
Yeah, and, that's what I hear.
Mm-hmm. I tried to. We've been trying to get them to come, and so that was one of my major goals for this year, is to try to get more developers from like DCS and X-Plane especially. Just reaching out to people. One of the biggest roadblocks that I personally come across with a lot of developers is they don't have like business emails. I don't know if you've ever found this. Like it's really hard to reach out to some people, and they love putting product code like validation between you and them in order to reach them. So I don't know if you've seen that anywhere, but like in order to ask them a question on the forums or like private message somebody, which I could see, you know, people just want to ask you stupid questions. So I guess pirated software, right, is their thing. And
pirated software, dumb questions, like, and I sometimes think that this industry is a bit too hung up on first last names and things along that line, but I can certainly see that being the case. I'm in a unique position with the X-Plane stuff, especially where I pretty much have contacts everywhere, or I can get in touch with somebody who knows somebody. But I've been in that position in other endeavors, and it's like, just give me an email somewhere, like anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so you're working on the DCS guys.
Yeah, we love them. Yeah. It's been, you know, we've certainly made the case, and what we find, like I'm sure Austin would say the same, we find that oftentimes we've made the case already. We can only do so much, and we've, you know, they kind of don't believe it when they hear it from us, but we've seen that the community starts to put pressure on them, and that's what makes the difference. And that's happened with a couple of exhibitors that are on our website now or that have been at past events with us, is that it took people going to the forums and people going to their Facebook page and saying, hey, are you guys going to be at FlightSim Expo? Are you guys coming out to Orlando? And, you know, it sort of took that piece for them to realize it. So this is what I'll tell anyone who wants to see DCS there, is we've made our case, and what you could do to help make that happen is to also make the case and see if that has anything of an impact. Because really, so far, you know, DCS has sort of said thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense too, because it's not like, it isn't their crowd, not necessarily, but it doesn't mean it can't be.
Well, I don't know. I could be wrong, but you know, we can ask the chat. But I sort of am getting a fair amount of feedback from people, or hearing from a fair number of people who are active users of both. Okay. And I know you're right. It is a different group, but I'm hearing more and more people talk about DCS, and when they're looking at doing any type of combat simulation, that seems to be where they're going. And you know, you get the guys there from 1C Game Studios that make the IL-2 Sturmovik series. That was a really, really popular setup last year, especially with, you saw what they had there on the floor with the racing setup that they had kind of going on.
Yeah,
That was really neat. I know like their booth was packed the whole time. So I think if they can be there and find it was a good experience, I think DCS would probably feel the same way.
I know the issue with a lot of the X-Plane developers, you talk about some of them, like a lot of them are independent. Like there's maybe a couple of guys that are doing it, and number one, they probably can't afford to do the trip. But a lot of them are oh no! I think my sim just crashed. Speaking of developers, what the hell happened there? Yep, there it goes.
Oh yeah, I just saw it freeze there, yeah.
Hey, your last landing was beautiful.
Thank you. It was nice. I agree, yeah.
Thank you. It's amazing how much easier it is to fly in the sim after you spend, $25,000 on flying lessons.
Yeah.
Rip.
Is that not true? Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding. But like a lot of them are independent developers. A lot of them are just super small shops, single person, 1 or 2 people, and they may not have the resources, they may not care, but a lot of them are also Eastern European. And there's that definite language barrier. Like there's a lot of Russian guys that are making add-ons. Flight Factor is Russian, JAR is Russian, and definitely there's a language barrier there, without question. And
I've tried reaching out to both of those developers actually, and I think like really the way that I was able to get on a wavelength with them was just like, hey, I'm associated with this, I'm going to Facebook message you.
Yeah.
And it seems completely out of the ordinary to what I would do, because in my eyes, it's really not professional, right?
Right.
But sometimes, it's the personal contact you need. So.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
We're working hard on offering the types of discounts that make this event attractive for a smaller developer, or also for anything that's nonprofit or that doesn't sell. So you look at someone like Virtual United Social Club or Vatastic or Boston Virtual ARTCC, Vatsim. All of these groups are able to take advantage of discounts on the basis that they're a nonprofit organization or they just aren't there to make money.
Right.
So if that applies to anyone that happens to be listening, reach out to our team. We'd love to see more virtual airlines and more of these, 5 or 10 people communities, because if you can bring us 5 or 10 attendees, that's great for us. That means there's more people there to talk to exhibitors. That means there's more people there to meet and to interact with. So if you are a small group like that and you can bring us 5 or 10 people, we're more than happy to give you a space at no charge. So for people who that might apply to, or in the scenario where you are a small developer, we can certainly talk and be flexible. But I know in most cases it's not the $400 we charge for a booth, it's the fact that you got to fly from somewhere in Eastern Europe to get here.
Yeah, and I'm sure Romania to even Orlando is probably not cheap.
Yeah.
especially when you're being paid in not much.
Yep.
Yeah. So is there trying to think what else we could hit on. We hit it all?
Happy to do some Austin mentioned questions earlier. I think people have been asking, but if there's anything else people have as far as questions, happy to answer some stuff off the stream too.
Yeah, guys, if you got any questions, ask them. Let's fill the last little bit of here time with some Q&A. We can go back to shooting the breeze about whatever. Hey, Austin. So you
just said he was stepping away right as you said that?
Of course he did. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did. I see the message now. So what days are you going to be down there?
I don't know yet. I should figure that out, right?
I mean, it might be important at some point, right?
I think.
Go ahead.
Hockey store. Yeah, we'll get back to that. I think I'll probably be there at least a week. So I think I'm looking at Tuesday to Tuesday, possibly Tuesday to Thursday, depending on how things go. I've got like 2.5 weeks off from work on vacation days, so I'll definitely be there for a while. And we usually try to stay. I think we've got a couple of people's girlfriends coming down to the show, only because they were promised a visit to like Orlando or to Universal or Disney World or something afterwards. So I think we have to go do that.
Girls don't play flight sims.
I know. Well, that's why they're going on Universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I made my wife stay home. She wanted to go to Vegas with me last year. I'm like, listen, you don't want to go to Vegas with me. Like, let's go to Vegas on a different set of terms, not nerding out at this convention because you're going to hate yourself for it.
Yeah. No, I think that was a lot of the case was, people just coming down because they could go to Vegas and they could hang out for a while afterwards. Right. So I think we'll certainly have a bit of an after party to do. Plus, after you do, like, especially we have a bunch of the volunteers who help out at the event come by for those next couple of days. So once you go through something like this, you just need a couple of days to get drunk and party with people before you go back to real life.
Well, yeah, you do and you don't. But yeah, that was
the first night
Vegas,
is a tough one.
Vegas, we front loaded all that stuff last year, and
really?
aside from me staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning talking to Tom Kyler from IXEG when I had a 6 a.m. flight to catch, that was fun. Also very stupid. Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's a good time. I'm trying to dig up the pictures for the hockey story here. Does Austin like hockey?
So I've been to a Caps game.
Okay.
And I live 25 minutes from the Little Caesars Arena, and my coworkers will not stop telling me that I have to go see a Red Wings game. So, I understand. So
all right,
I can listen and comprehend. I don't know if I can talk the talk, but
fair enough.
Yeah, let's go Caps.
Well, I have been to exactly one professional hockey game in my whole life. My company
Bruins?
at the time offered, they had season tickets to all the Bruins games, and so people could opt into them, take them whenever they wanted to, yada yada, this and that, and it was a cool little perk. Like it was a super neat perk to have that I never even cared about. We got to the point where Boston was in the playoffs, and I said, and so the way they did the playoffs tickets was that they would have a lottery, and they when your name came up in the lottery, basically when your name was next, you got a phone call from somebody in HR, said, "Hey, you're up. When do you want to go to a game?" And so my name came up, and I said, "Dude, I don't care. Like, I really don't care about this. Just tell me what's next. What's the next game that's available?" And so they I found the pictures. So they're like, "Okay, well, here's this game." I'm like, "I'll take it. It's a playoff game." And they're like, "Well, but you understand it's game 7, and game 7's probably not going to get played." And I said, "Dude, I don't care. If I go to game 7, it'll be a good game, right?" "Well, yeah. If I don't go to game 7, I won't care, right?" That's what you say. "Okay, so give me that one." So we're going through the series, and I don't follow hockey. I'm not a hockey fan at all. I like hockey. I like watching it. I don't follow sports. I just don't have the time for it. And so we are, we're going through the series, and it ends up being Boston versus the Canadiens, Montreal.
Ooh.
It would have been 2011. It looks like. So if you're a hockey fan, you're already starting to get spidey senses tingling. So it was that was the series, and so I'm watching this series. And, I'm just kind of chilling out, having a good time, whatever. And I'm like, okay, so game 1, 2, 3 happens. Game 4 happens, 5. And I'm like, well, I kind of want maybe Boston to lose again because it'd be kind of cool to go see this game, right? And this next game happens. And then game 6 happens. And I think Boston lost like 2 or 3 in a row or something going into it. Like it was a pretty wild series. So game 7 happens. And I go to HR that morning. I get my tickets, and I go and I show up to the game, and I find out where my tickets are. And you'll see on stream here in a couple of seconds where my tickets were. And
oh,
come on now. That is just, oh my God.
So I ended up in attendance to what was this is the Stanley Cup winning Bruins, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will tell you that this was basically the Stanley Cup. Like once they beat the Canadiens, they pretty much had it in the bag.
Well, the final wasn't that. I think that was the year with Vancouver, though, wasn't it?
I don't know. Again, it was 2011, so okay. Whatever. But as far as Boston sports fans are now, the Boston sports fans are a special breed. But as far as they're concerned, this was the Stanley Cup. They're like, even if we don't win the Stanley Cup, as long as we knock the Canadiens out, we're happy with that.
Yeah.
So
we feel that way about the Canadiens as well.
So yeah,
us Leafs fans too. Yeah.
Here I am, a non-hockey fan, 3 rows back from the ice in a pretty good position here. This game 7, went to double overtime. It was probably one of the, they've told me, people that have watched this on TV are like, dude, you were at that game? Like, that's the kind of response that you get. Like, I guess one of the greatest hockey games that was ever played or something. I don't know, like super intense, whatever. And here I am like, I don't know. It's cool, right? It's neat. So I have to
totally wasted on you.
totally wasted.
Isn't it something to watch though, like in person?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, like I've done a lot of amateur, like not amateur, but minor league games and stuff like
amateur
that.
porn there for a second.
Well, yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that for a second.
Mirrors on the roof, I guess.
FlightSim Expo after dark. Let's go. Yeah, so like I've done a lot of minor league teams and stuff like that where I've seen games live, and I understand like it's a game that's really fun to watch in person. I can't stand watching it on TV because it's just boring. But this was a whole different level of holy crap, and so as a result, I can never go to another hockey game again. Like it's just I can't do it. Like nothing I do is ever going to top that experience that day. So that's my hockey story.
So what you should do is come out here and watch a Red Wings game.
Okay.
Right? And then you should go watch any other team play, and you will never be disappointed again.
That's fair. That's fair. Aren't the Red Wings okay?
No, they're last.
Oh, I thought they like won.
They used to be like back in 2011, which obviously was the last time you ever watched a hockey game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they were a very good team.
Okay.
I think in those years, and like historically have been a very sort of almost people would say dynasty level team where you would expect them to be in the playoffs and kind of go fairly far in the playoffs every year, but it's changed recently.
Chat's talking now. Red Wings sucks.
I see that. Yeah.
Boondock 77 is a friend of mine from here in the area, and he's somebody who I think is sort of hates me for that going to that game. What were we saying, Austin?
I said he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just doing some Googling here, and that 2011 year, which was in fact Boston and Vancouver in the final, was the year that there were like riots in Vancouver after they lost, because it was such the way that they lost that game in particular. Like I have friends from Vancouver, and like you mentioned that series of that game, and it's a very touchy subject. Kind of like there's a Leafs Bruins series that was similar to that we won't talk about anymore.
Well, it's the same thing with the Patriots losing to the New York Giants twice in the Super Bowl. So
right,
which we won't let them live that one down either. 18-1 was it? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So hockey, I can't believe the Stanley Cup was at Vegas when we were there. And
yeah,
did Vegas win, or was it the other team that won?
I'm so bad. Like I'm a big hockey fan, and I'm so bad at remembering what's happened the past year. But yeah, I want to say yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fine. Let's find this out.
Yeah. Whatever. Vegas. I could tell the buzz. Okay. So I guess they lost.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, they lost the Caps. That's
the
right.
buzz in that city, just because they had a champion, like they had a team that was competing for the championship. It was crazy. Like the number of people that were just all about that game, and whatnot. Like New England's pretty much the only other place I've ever seen that, where they just get so hard behind the teams.
It'd be interesting to see. Like I don't know, I don't think I've seen a Knights game rather this year yet, because I only at least maybe played them once and I must have been flying them. But I don't know whether that's continued this year. I'm just curious to know whether it would have continued. But you're absolutely right. It was amazing. And not that I'm a big fan of this, but the way that they kind of put on a show before the games and everything, it's what you'd expect from Vegas, I suppose. But it was cool. Grudgingly, it was cool.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit over the top. I don't know if you probably didn't see any of the games. They had
I heard about
a show before the whole game, like on ice, and it was a bit much.
It's exactly what you would expect from Las Vegas, though.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Like you're not gonna let them get by without having something like that.
Yeah.
Toronto hasn't won a cup since 1967. They still sell out every night. That was
longest
basically
drought in the history of professional sports.
Even worse than the I guess the current drought. I mean, it wasn't was the Red Sox worse before they won?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And wow, who can forget the Cubs?
Yep.
But
yeah,
yes.
Current is what I meant. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but there's just there's just too many people here. Like Toronto's I think it's the either fourth or fifth largest city in North America. So there's a lot of people here.
Holy crap.
And then you add in the greater area and you add in the fact that it's Canada, there's a lot of interest in that team. And so many of the tickets are corporate, like sort of like the situation you have where you have people who may not necessarily be into the game that are there. So that they will probably sell out forever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Huh. Well, I think we've probably hit on everything at this point, right? We've talked about professional sports. We talked about Vatsim. You know, we talked about pretty much all the things.
Made fun of the Airbus.
Made fun of the Airbus for a bit. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about FlightSim Expo, but you know, it's cool. I don't see any questions coming through either. So, do you guys have any parting words?
I guess I get to go first this time.
I don't care who goes first.
Yeah, apparently.
You can work that out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him my usual, which is just we love to see the community out at these events. We thank guys like you being part of the outreach effort that helps us make all this work. And at the end of the day, we put this on because it's a really neat experience for us, and I hope for the community. So for those who can make it, look forward to seeing you. For those who can't, watch it online. And if you have questions or if you want to be part of the show, whether it be as an exhibitor, attendee, drop us a note. I guess maybe if you can pop the link somewhere handy for people, or an email address too, if you'd like to. We're all about feedback and all about working with the community, and hopefully we can see as many people as possible out there at the show in Orlando.
The FlightSim Expo link?
Yeah. If you want to drop that, I'm sure it's pretty easy to Google. I don't know if
FlightSimExpo.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah. No shame plug. Do it.
There we go.
There you go.
This is how we roll on low production quality streams.
Oh, hello.
There you go. Look at that. Front and center.
That's great. That's beautiful.
It looks like downtown New York from like FSX.
we can even add a little. Wait, can I make this scroll?
Ooh.
Can we get a star wipe?
Dude,
oh my gosh.
Source sub. I can't find any transitions for this. I tried to do a star wipe last week, and I ended up crashing my encoder. Like the stream crashed twice as I was getting everything fired up and ready to go. And it's because I was trying to find a star wipe, and I accidentally added a stinger transition, but I didn't give it a stinger file, and the whole thing just went. Nope, not going to happen. Yeah, don't do that. So Austin, any parting words from you?
I guess like just to reiterate, like everything we're doing is for the community. So like we are basically completely community driven in terms of a lot of the major decision making. And I might be biased because I'm kind of the frontline guy when it comes to like receiving all of your fantastic tweets and Facebook messages. So just, I mean, if you have any questions, you want to reach out, I am on there all the time. I can give you my email if you want. We also have an email on the site. And if you want some of your favorite developers to come that you haven't seen already up there, give them a shout. Like just reach out to them. That's a great way to get them to come. And I know there's a bunch of people that I might not know that you want to be there. And when they contact me, hey, we want to come. I'm like, oh yeah, come on. How do we get you on board? So, yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody in Orlando. It was a blast last year, and I actually think like somebody from some of the outreach we did came up and said hi. So
nice. Well, Live Fly Guy asks how many streamers will be at Expo, and if they're not speaking, what will they be doing? So my parting words then, from our perspective, we're figuring that out still. I can tell you that I will be there. At least Saturday, all day Saturday, and the first half of Sunday. We're our little brigade's leaving probably like 4:00 in the afternoon, I think, out of Kissimmee. So we won't be around too long, but I will be spending a lot of time at the Pilot Edge booth. I'm going to be streaming at some point from the Pilot Edge booth if all things go as planned. As far as other streamers, I will sort of leave it up to them to announce kind of what they're doing. We've talked about trying to do some streaming stuff from the event. Again, I don't think the fixed like static streaming setups has really been super beneficial the last few years. Plus it also detracts a little bit from our ability to just kind of walk up, be approachable and be able to say hi to people. So, I would say talk to your favorite streamers and see what they plan on doing. Myself, like I said, I will be streaming a little bit from the Pilot Edge booth, and I'll probably be hanging around the Pilot Edge booth pretty much the entire time. With the exception of, some panels and stuff here and there. I don't know that I'm not planning on organizing a panel. I don't know if anybody else in the community is planning on doing something like that. It's probably still too early to tell. Right, Evan?
Yeah, there's some sort of talk about that, but I don't think it would, at least what's been proposed right now, isn't explicitly streaming oriented,
Mhm.
although it may be hosted by one of the streamers, but that still remains up in the air.
Right. So a lot of it is still in flux in terms of what's happening with panels and kind of all that stuff. So just kind of keep posted with who you're watching and whatnot.
Yeah, and there is also on our website there under the sponsors and exhibitors page, we've got a list of the media partners, including streamers, who have committed, and have also reached out to us to tell us that. So that certainly doesn't cover everyone, but there's a bit of a list going on the website you can have a look at as well.
See if we can find them.
I try to keep Facebook and Twitter updated with all our new partners as well, as fast as I can, as I keep telling Evan.
Sponsors and exhibitors?
Yeah, there's
our
actually
logo.
a tab over the top there you have to click on.
Oh.
Keep scrolling
Yep.
up.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, you guys are like 10 seconds behind me, or 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Enough.
And then under the immediate partners, that's that. Yeah, we got it there.
We got William, we got Derek going, got myself. Sky Lounge will be there, it looks like. Fly Purdue. Fly Purdue is, I think, coming on the stream on Friday. So that should be fun. He's got a connection through Boston this week. We got Chewy, we got Matt Davis. I almost called him Bellins. I know he doesn't go by that anymore. Durka, Ground Point Niner, and I have no idea. I don't know who's Mustafa.
He's a Canadian.
He's hosting me.
Filmer. Yeah.
Oh, well, Mustafa, Flying Moose. We'll have to. I'll have to check you out. there you go. Here.
Moose.
Well, yeah, you just picked up a follower just because of that. So we'll come and we'll fight you sometime.
Chat palm.
There you go. Yeah. Well, that's good, man. I appreciate you guys coming on. Hopefully we can help get the word out there and get people interested in this fine website and event, and whatnot. I'm looking forward to the event. I've had a blast. I had a blast at FlightSim Expo, and I had a blast, with the other events that were held years prior. And it's been fun to watch community interest get bigger. It's been fun to watch the whole sort of thing grow, and it's always awesome to meet people. That watch the streams and watch. You know what? I'm gonna say this is gonna sound really probably bad. One of my favorite things about last year, especially, is the bewilderment from some of the developers and whatnot. As there's like a dozen people hanging around, myself and maybe some other streamers, and they're trying to figure out who in the hell is that person. Like the FlightSim, the FSX folks and whatnot that maybe aren't as familiar with Twitch, especially on the X-Plane side of things. You could just tell they're just like the wheels are spinning. Like, why are there so many people coming up and talking to that one? So but it's fun. It's just such a great show, and it's a good time. Hope they're going to talk about Vulcan. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. We're looking forward to seeing Nico there as well.
That discussion.
First of all, Boondock77, Andy, thanks for 12 months, and Rocky Mountain Fly, thanks for 25 months of support. I appreciate it, both of you guys. Thank you everybody for coming around and sticking around. If you're on the Twitch stream and you want to catch the VOD, it'll go up on Twitch here immediately. I'll put it up on YouTube. I'll probably release it Wednesday afternoon. So, and to both you guys, if you want to go back and find anything I can't really bleep anything out at this point. So what's on the internet's on the internet. But yeah, looking forward to it. So guys, thanks again for coming on. I'm going to drop you here for just a moment. You mind sticking around for a few minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you got a place to be?
No, sounds like a plan. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Talk to you in a minute.
Thank you again. I'll drop you guys, and I'll be back in just a moment. Everybody, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Once again, we'll have the VODs and all that stuff elsewhere on the YouTubes and whatnot. And yeah, I'll be live on Friday night if all goes well. I think Fly Purdue is supposed to come out here and grace us with our presence. So I need to reach out to him and see if that's still going to happen. It's on my calendar at least. So we'll see you again. Next Monday, we'll return with the normal GA Monday. We're going to hop in the new V-Flight Air Cherokee 140 that was released. I wanted to do that tonight, but, we had other stuff going on. So, yeah, toodles, and we'll see you soon. Let me hit the button here first.